for the next 4 hours, Joe, we are going to talk about the second greatest superhero of all time. Some would say the greatest superhero of all time. Used to be my favorite superhero until eclipsed by his protege, but it's being the 80th anniversary this week of Batman. We are going to talk nothing about I'm trying to think of the right way, the grandiose way of saying the greatest comic, probably icon in all the comic superhero world. Created by Bob Kane and Bill Finger back in 1939 and first appeared in Detective Comic number 27. Batman is, I think you could make an argument, I'm going to say unarguably, the biggest and most influential character in comic lore and history. And I base that on the sheer number of TV shows and movies and spin-offs and like the coaching tree, if you will, and the things that have spun off of the Batman empire and the Batman universe. You know, Superman was like the first superhero that came out about 6 months beforehand, which was derivative of a couple other things leading up to it. But with Batman, and you might be able to say I'm slightly biased, but I think probably the biggest iconic figure in this realm is Bruce Wayne and Batman. Your thoughts, Joe?
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Carnival Personnel Sideshow.
You were just looking at me the whole time like,
We didn't do the intro.
We didn't.
I'm Joe.
I'm Jacques.
And Jacques has something to say about Batman.
So let's start over.
No.
When did you fall in love with Batman, Joe?
When did I fall in love with Batman? I would have to say 1989.
Oh.
Little small budget independent film came out starring Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson, and Kim Basinger, and Robert Wuhl. Nobody mentions Robert Wuhl.
He was awesome in that.
He was.
Hands down my favorite role of him ever.
Oh, yeah. You're discounting his entire run of Arliss? Yes.
Pretty much, yeah.
You didn't have HBO. So, yes, I would agree that Robert Wuhl was great in that movie. But, yes, the Batman phenomenon that debuted in 1989, of which I have a copy of on Laserdisc.
Which we tried to watch.
Yes, the disc rot has not been kind. But Tim Burton's masterpiece, if you will. And it was done during the writer's strike of 1988. So a lot of loosey-goosey liberties being taken with the script. I mean, they had the script complete. Did Frank Miller write the script? No. Okay.
I thought Burton did.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Or at least was one of the writers on it. Which it's interesting, how it works out. If you're the producer or the director and a writer, can you punch up your own script?
Yeah, I remember reading the Wikipedia entry on Batman the movie a while ago, and like the wranglings of putting that movie together, and because of the writer's strike, having to circumnavigate those waters. But yeah, that's when I first fell in love with Batman, and then of course the Batman Nintendo game that came out shortly thereafter sealed the deal as far as like me thinking of Batman not as just this weird kitschy kind of 1960s TV show starring Adam West, which was great, but I think I was a little too young at the time to appreciate the irony that show was trying to convey. He was just awesome. I mean, I was 12 or 11 years old when that movie came out, so that pretty much sealed the deal. I noticed you're wearing your Batman T-shirt, like as if it's the one and only Batman T-shirt that you own.
I'm sure that my youngest son's teacher and kids in his class think Tristan, his dad, wears the same shirt every day because I wear a Batman shirt almost every day. We just went on the way here. We went to an 80s theme party that was kind of Stranger Things / 80s. And, the boys went as two of the guys from Stranger Things. Management lives for the 80s, so she was all jelly bracelet and bright color. And I wore a pair of blue jeans and a Batman shirt, which I argued, find a picture of me from the 80s when I'm not wearing a blue jeans and a Batman shirt. And
but you're wearing the Batman logo that was popularized from the Batman movie. Like that logo was everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that and the LA Raiders logo, I think I think that was, if you were a gang member
yep.
in 1989. But no, but seriously, like that logo was everywhere.
And did you see it in the theater?
I think Batman had a cereal.
He did.
And, Batman, let's think about this. Batman, I did not see it in the theater, but think about Batman between the 70s and the mid 80s. Like, Batman was around, but it wasn't in the zeitgeist as it is now. That movie infused that into American pop culture.
Well, so I'll catch up to that in a second. Well, no, I'll talk about it now. I saw that movie opening night, June 26th, which is the day in the comics that his parents died. So I thought it was great that, it dropped on that day. And I saw it in Harvard Square with a friend of mine.
Where was it?
In Harvard Square, sorry.
Thank you.
No, and seriously, I always loved Batman up until that, point. I had really gotten into comics just probably maybe 5 years earlier than that. And maybe it's my favorite era of comics because that's when I got into it. And it's funny because you said that, depending on when you were born or when you first got into Batman, like that's your favorite Batman. It's funny when you hear, and we'll get into some movies that I didn't really like that I listened to some Batman podcast or some other superhero themed podcast, and they're always like, that's what got me into it. And so that's interesting. I think my opinions are a little more well-rounded and more important than everybody else is possibly listening to. So I'm right. Everybody else is wrong. No, you're right. Up until that point, the comics had gotten dark, really dark in the early 80s. But everybody for the last 30 years knew Batman as Adam West. From the Super Friends, from the Superman Batman Hour, from the campiness, from Batman teaming up with Scooby-Doo, no, seriously, those crossovers, Batman with Wendy Marvin and Wonder Dog and stuff like that.
Not the 1940s serials.
1943, 16 episode, 15-minute serials, which if you've ever seen are great. Kills a lot. Lots of gunplay, by Batman. Just drives around in a regular car,
To be fair, Batman was big on technology, the modern Batman. That was the most technologically advanced thing at the time, was a gun.
Right. But seriously, so, what got me into it, most people would think would be the Adam West thing, because I'm 50 and that had been out. But that wasn't as around as much as the Super Friends. And that's what had pulled me into it. And of course, Batman had Robin. Robin, when I talk about some of the things that the game-changing things about Batman, a couple of things that stand out that really separate him from other superheroes, period, is the iconic things that spun off of him. Sidekicks. Robin was the first sidekick. Every sidekick that's come from that, is derivative of that relationship and stuff like that. The Batmobile. I mean, the Batmobile since the Adam West Batman 66, that's where the car was almost its own character, and to this day, you can go to car shows, you go to Comic-Cons, and it's a big deal to have, the original Batmobile or a copy of the Batmobile from that series in it, all the way through the last, Arkham Knight game that came out a couple years ago, the big PS4 game, well, everything, but I played on PS4. It was delayed nearly 8 months they missed their Christmas release that they were supposed to have because the car wasn't right. And the car is such a big part of it. And you go through all the movies. I mean, can you think of another superhero where like a gadget, like a car or something is as iconic as the character?
Knight Rider.
Well played. Exactly. Same designer. And
George Barris.
Yeah. George Barris. And, sidebar with Knight Rider. He also designed, you wouldn't know, you kids, the original Battlestar Galactica.
Oh.
The Cylons, they were like robot creatures, and they had the red line that went back and forth, which he later incorporated into the kit car.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
Back to Batman.
So, yeah, as a kid, and of course, it's funny because I hear these stories. I remember a couple of them when I was 4 or 5 years old, and I don't know if I remember them or they've just been retold by the family so many times. My family was so worried I was going to try to jump out a window and fly because I lived in a Batman or Superman costume. I didn't have a job. So if they were so worried about that, why were, but I was a kid who used towels to tie around his neck. I made my own costumes and stuff like that. But Batman has always been it ever since then. And then, of course, as I'm 9, 10, 10, 11, in syndication, UHF channels became a bigger thing. And that's when you would come home from school and there was the Adam West thing. So Adam West came a little later. A big influence. And of course, I remember, watching them as a kid and it's the same footage. It's the same actors, the same dialogue, completely different show after you're about like 13 or 14 or something like that. Still completely awesome. But it was the Super Friends that, wheeled me into that world.
Yeah. I can see that now. I mean, I don't know how, so do you want to talk now that we're celebrating Batman's 80th year as something in existence? Do you want to focus more at the beginning about the comics leading up to the other media?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, I mean, he came in and during the golden age of comics, like I said, it was just about 6 months after Batman or after Superman launched came, Batman. And
was this Detective Comics?
Detective Comics number 27. And that moniker of him being a detective is still what carries him through to this day.
I can't believe you sold your copy for like $3.
Yeah, you know what
Not
I mean.
A good deal.
Hey, no, I needed the money.
Right.
Is that a blow or dark? Anyways, that got dark fast. But yeah, it's and it was not that long from that to, you already mentioned it, the movie serials. It was just a couple years later. It was a hit from almost the beginning. And it was within the first, I don't have it in front of me, but it was the first couple years, maybe even the first year, that Robin was introduced. And we talked before a number of times. It wasn't up until a few years ago that Bob Kane got all the credit. But another employee, who worked with him on that, Bill Finger, Bob Kane came up with the name Batman and the rough idea of it, and Bill Kane came out with the cape and cowl and with Robin and the Batmobile, and you go down the list. It's like everything else. Yeah. So it's they also had their big patriotic stuff during World War II. He was part of the war hero stuff through the 50s. But the thing about Batman, yes, he's ebbed and flowed. He's been in the public eye and out of the public eye. The TV series, Superman pretty much owned the TV series like through the 50s and stuff like that. But ever since Batman 66, from that point on, there's been no close second to the number of TV series, the number of movies, the number of live action. Because I have a short list here. There's a lot of Justice League stuff, a lot of Super Friends stuff, but none of them have their own independent. There's been small. I can list all the different ones, but ever since Batman 66, he has been the more prevalent in all the other different mediums, be it video games. Like you've already mentioned. A side-by-side comparison of Batman themed games to any other single franchise. yes, in the Marvel universe or whatever. But I wanted to like go through the comics. So the comics, ebbed and flowed as far as how dark they could get, how campy they got when the comic book, started to become the reason kids were delinquent. You know what I mean? And the crashing in on that. But I got into comics in like 83, 84 is when I learned to read. And I started reading, comics. And like I said, that's when comics or DC Comics took a really dark turn. That's when Frank Miller kind of, created the Watchmen, the 300, Batman Returns, a bunch of other stuff. And it's funny because it took a long time to go to kind of break away from the Adam West campiness and the Super Friends campiness. Even the Michael Keaton stuff, it's very campy. Tim Burton, I love those movies, but they're not, in my top 5. At the time, blown away because you don't get to step 1 without taking step 2. And if step 1 is a failure, and Superman 1 in 1979 was a first big budget movie. Superman, probably more iconic, at the time. It was more of a roll of the dice to go with Batman. Even when Legendary Pictures released, Superman Returns and relaunched the Batman Empire, they put $200 million into Superman Returns. They put $150 million into Batman Begins. Superman Returns comes in with like 450. Batman comes in with 400. Batman, because of lower expectations, was considered an overwhelming success. And they rebooted the Superman franchise, and they didn't put out another one for 8 years in that time, the Christian Bale thing. Yeah. But, what's interesting when I talk about the window that I got into comics from 83, 84, up into 95, 96, all the movies you're seeing in the DC universe now, or many of them, came from that time period. They're adaptations from that time. The Killing Joke, another Frank Miller. That's when Barbara Gordon gets shot by the Joker, doesn't know he's shooting Batgirl, thinks he's just, shooting Commissioner Gordon's daughter to get to Commissioner Gordon, doesn't realize that he's paralyzing, Batgirl. But that's dark. I mean, here's a major character being shot in the spine in an attempt just to drive one of his nemesis crazy type thing. I mean, just in the comic itself, it's really fucking dark. He shoots Barbara Gordon, and then as she's bleeding on the floor, strips her down, takes naked pictures of her so he can show her farther, in his mental torture of him to try to make him go insane. But in that period of time, that's when I got into comics, and it's one of the reasons I love Batman vs. Superman and the Justice League movie, and then the animated ones that have come out in the last few years, like Doom and stuff like that, because it's from that time period.
Now, that's not... Okay, so maybe now we can talk about... You've introduced your... Well, you've talked about your introduction to Batman and all that, but how about... What about the Batman character itself made a connection with you? Because we know, Superman you love as well. Superman... he's kind of Jesus-y, strange visitor from another planet, but fights for the truth, justice, and whatever the American way is, or was back then. But Batman is different. He has a much different. He doesn't have superpowers. He's one of the few superheroes that is mortal or not of this planet. But he's a rich kid, and he suffers. He basically has PTSD.
Correct.
What about the Batman / Bruce Wayne? By the way, spoilers: Bruce Wayne is Batman. In case you didn't know, I know. I'm sorry. What about that character set off something in you that said, "Yes, I need to know more about this guy. I need to follow his each and every move." Like
you tapped on it in comics and even today. And again, what the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the last 10 years has never been done in movies, will never be done again. But all of those people, with the exception of Robert Downey Jr. or Iron Man, is a god. Like literally, well, not everyone. You have the other one. But most of the people in comics are gods, or have mythical power, or whatever. He's just a guy. You take away, the fact that he's a detective first and foremost, that he's considered to be on par with Sherlock Holmes, if not better, that he's able to fight alongside and against godlike creatures as a man. And I think that's one of the things that I've always, not as a kid, when I'm watching the Super Friends when I'm 5, he has a cool car, he punches the Joker in the face. That's awesome.
By the way, Joker's a guy.
Joker's a
he's
guy.
not exactly a god. And,
But
Right.
1984, Frank Miller, Dark Knight Returns. Here's a 65-year-old Bruce Wayne fighting a 30-year-old Superman because he doesn't age, and kills him. Well, has the ability to kill him. And
Spares him.
It spares him, but he makes sure he says it's like one of my favorite moments in comics, and it's great. And as he's holding his life in his hands, he goes, in your moments of quiet reflection, I want you to remember the one man who held your life in his hands and was a god standing over you.
Chilling.
It really is, and it's true. But his. In the comics and the more modern day stuff, and ever since the Keaton stuff, he's a planner, he's a plotter, he's a strategist, and people. Not only is he part of the Justice League, he is the leader of the Justice League. So they all defer to him. They look to him, it literally as much as him and Superman are frenemies, and Batman resents the fact that Superman has these godlike powers and chooses to be a Boy Scout instead of, if I had the powers that you had, there'd be no more crime. That's it. It would be, like the guy from The Boys on Amazon
Okay.
Prime. He would be a god ruling, by fear.
Yes.
And Superman resents the fact that, hey, there's laws, there's orders, there's due process, there's you can't break a guy's leg, you can't torture, you can't waterboard. That's not what America did before.
Right.
Bush. And so I've always liked the fact that, anybody can be Batman. If they're born into phenomenal wealth and
That's the
have a
thing
genius level IQ. And
So that is an appeal. I mean, he was also touted as a playboy, which is there's major sex appeal with the Bruce Wayne character, as far as like he's not tied down to anything. He has the world at his fingertips because of his immense wealth, his prestige, his pedigree, and he ain't married. Like he has no family, and it's by design. Like his family was taken away from him as a young child, and he was raised by his butler, and a little help from his friends. But for the most part, yeah, he's self-made as much as you can be, having $1 billion in the bank or whatever it is.
And what's great in the comics, with the Christian Bale franchise, that's the first time in the cinematic universe it shows how he became Batman. That he didn't just go to a kickboxing class down the street. That he traveled the world and he learned from the best scientists. He learned from the best detectives. He learned from the different martial arts. He's proficient, and there's different numbers here and there, but it's in the 120 different martial arts. He's like master at like black belt kind of level. And it's funny. It's like in the different Batman things when I've watched them with the boys, we've gone through the fight scenes, and I've almost frame by frame broken down the different styles that Batman have used, or in the comics, you can see. But that's the thing. What I love about it is he's just a guy, but it shows the work that went into it. And if you, I also like some of my favorite still art. There's pictures of him in the Batcave, getting stitched up by Alfred, and his back is just one big bruise and scar, and all of this stuff. And without any powers, again, these god figures, the big three, they refer to him as the big three: Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman. One of these things is not like the other. The other two are true gods. He is a guy who breaks his bones, but what's able to let him be a leader of these gods is he's smarter than everybody. He literally is the smartest, one of the smartest people out there. Some of his nemesis, Riddler's probably smarter, would like do a little better on the SATs, but his OCD of not being able to not leave riddles behind that are clues, you know what I mean?
Right.
Are his Achilles heel.
Exactly, yeah. Do you want to talk up a little bit about the Batman villains?
Yeah. Well, that's okay. So when I talk about the Batman tree and all the things that Batman has brought into this world, of comics and sci-fi and pop culture, again, the Batmobiles are always so iconic and different. The fact that he is the first one with a sidekick. I dare anybody to tell me a superhero with a bigger and better rogues gallery. And I mean, it's like, again, and so many of these villains have stood the test of time as well, and they've adapted. The Joker movie isn't out yet, but you look at the Joker from Cesar Romero in Batman 66. Go ahead. Lemon wedges, orange wedges.
Orange wedges, yeah. The Gilbert Gottfried podcast reference.
But think of the Joker. Just, the Joker alone is as great as a villain or foe, as a Magneto, as a Lex Luthor. And again, you go down the list of great villains. Every superhero has to have a great villain. Everybody has one. With the Joker just alone, you think it's like, who's been the Joker? And again, it's Cesar Romero. It's Jack Nicholson. It's Heath Ledger, and now it's Joaquin Phoenix. It's like,
don't forget Jared Leto.
It's Joaquin Phoenix. No, I actually like Jared Leto,
and Joaquin Phoenix is like,
the biggest and best actors of the time choose to take that role. That role is transcendent. That role is, you can't have Batman without a Joker, and that's been, one of the great, Under the Red Hood, the whole thing. Joker killed Robin. Like, Joker beat Robin to death with a crowbar. Again, that was the early 90s version of it. And so, but you go down his rogues gallery, it's like the same thing. The Riddler, and I'm hoping that the Riddler makes an appearance in a couple other things, but, Frank Gorshin and then Jim Carrey, very popular Jim Carrey. It's a huge part of the Arkham series video games, the Joker character. But again, you go down like the Mr. Freezes, and we can, I didn't rank my favorite ones, but outside the big Penguin, that's another iconic.
Right. I do want to talk a little bit more about the Joker, because the Joker is when you can't say Batman and not think the Joker, because it's the yin and the
Superman, yang. Lex Luthor.
Right. What about the Joker stands the test of time? He's such the archetype of, I guess you could call it just chaos and anarchy personified. Like, basically, like, what if the second smartest person in the world didn't decide to fight crime, but instigated and engage in it and just turn society on its head, and only basically use his whatever resources he has to disrupt the order that Batman has been fighting for years to uphold. That's sort of the tug of war between Batman and Joker. And
the great thing with the Joker character that I've always found appealing, he has no agenda other than what you just said, other than just
watching the world burn.
That's it. He doesn't want money.
Right.
He doesn't want power. He's not.
Except when he robs that bank.
Well,
guys got to eat.
Guys got to eat. Like, look, if you're going to take over abandoned carnivals, on the boardwalk,
Shame on them, by the way. I mean, if you're going to abandon an amusement park, at least take the time to either de-electrify it or put a lock on the gate or something,
But the appeal to me with him is exactly that. Batman can plan and strategize. If he went the military route, he would have been a great general. If he wanted to go into politics, I mean, he inherited his parents' money, but he didn't squander it. As much as he spends being Batman, he still runs Wayne Enterprises to a great extent. You know, he's still involved in that. He understands how the stock market works. He understands how you need more money to make money. But with him, truly, you can't plan for the Joker. There is no planning. There is no, he did this, then he robbed this bank, then he robbed that bank. He's probably going to rob this bank next.
He's like a one-man terrorist organization.
Right. And his only agenda is truly to fuck with you. And he might fuck with you this way on this day and then do something completely different, you know, the next.
Now, in the canon of Batman comics, did the Joker, was he spawned in response to Batman, or was Batman responding to the Joker? Like, which came first, the Joker or the Batman?
Joker came about 10 years after. You know, and it was one of those things where you listen to see the different documentaries about, you know, comic book writers and stuff, and man, they just had to crank this shit out.
Yeah.
And or even Stan Lee, he would, like, you know, come in. It's like they would go down the alphabet. It'd be Ant-Man, then it'd be Birdman, then it'd be Catman, then it'd be Dogman, you know, whatever, you know, just, and so, and he, you know, he was a quote unquote clown prince of comedy, and he came in a very campy age, and the campiness carried all the way through, you know, of course, until, like, you know, Jack Nicholson and Batman 89. But even with the campiness, again, he had no agenda except to fuck with things. And it will never be said better than in The Dark Knight, where, you know, Alfred tells him, some people just want to watch the world burn. It's such a great, iconic line. And it describes him to a T. That is his agenda, to disrupt the norm, you know. Yeah, to scare people, to do this, you know, whatever. In the scary thing about that character, there is completely no, and with most sociopaths, to say a lack of empathy is the biggest understatement. I mean, you know, in all versions of Joker, you know, even Jack Nicholson, who shoots his number one, Bob, for no reason other than he's angry. Bob, give me a gun, and just shoots him. You know, he didn't fuck up. He didn't do that. You know, I'm just mad. This guy has a plane. Is taking away my gas balloons. I'm going to shoot the guy who's been my most loyal foot soldier this whole time. Mm-hmm. And so so that's what I've always loved about the Joker, and the relationship between them. It's dark, and it's like.
Do you think it was most effectively explored in the Lego Batman movie?
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
We can't now, when we're keeping track of the best Jokers, we can't discount, you know, we talked about Nicholson and all that, but don't forget Mark Hamill, the Joker, 100% like cream of the crop. He's above Nicholson.
Well,
yes.
I wouldn't even put Nicholson at the top. Or as the number
okay,
two.
above Ledger.
But yeah, Mark Hamill. And again, you've played all the games. I mean, you know, I'm going to go back just a bit. He killed Jason Todd, beat him to death with a crowbar. It's in the comics. It couldn't be more brutal. And one of my favorite movies, not my favorite Batman movies, one of my favorite movies, I made you watch it. I think it has... You told me it's gone down like 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, but for a long time, it was 100% Under the Red Hood. And the whole movie comes to the crescendo of Jason Todd, who had come back from the dead, unbeknownst to Batman, and he has the three of them in a room together. He has Joker tied up, beaten with a crowbar, and he's demanding the Batman kill him to break his one rule. And Jason Todd is pleading with Batman. He's like, I'm not asking you to kill the Penguin or Clayface or Two-Face, all of which are really bad dudes who have killed their share of people. But he's like, the number of graveyards that he has filled that are in your hands, every time you catch him and he gets out, hundreds, if not thousands of people die because you won't break your one fucking rule, you know. And after he killed me, I thought, you know, if it was the other way around, if he killed you, if he took you from me, you know, I wouldn't stop until he was in the ground. And Batman won't kill him. And at the same time, the Joker won't kill Batman. He's had more than ample opportunity. And again, in The Dark Knight, when he's like, Batman calls him out in his interrogation room and he's like, trying to kill me. He's like, I don't want to kill you. What would I do without you? And he's like, you complete me,
Really codependent relationship.
It is. It's a fucked up relationship. But when you think about Rogues Gallery, just seriously, I don't care what hero you think of. Can you name a Rogues Gallery as robust, for lack of better words, as this one?
No.
And how many of these characters have gone on to through their own thing? Getting back to the Joker for a second. You can't think of Batman without the Joker, and it is Mark Hamill. You are one. There's no close second. There really isn't. Can you think of the Joker without Harley Quinn now?
Right.
And she's become a tour de force on her own in pop culture. Movies just based around her. Animated movies and comic series just based around her. That's how big the spinoff is. Catwoman. Is Catwoman a villain? I mean, she's a master thief, but her relationship with him, it's complicated.
Right. And that's another thing we should probably touch on. Again, getting back to my earlier thing about him being a billionaire playboy, the sex appeal and basically the sexiness of Batman and the universe that he inhabits. Like, Catwoman is there to basically tempt him and question him and basically maybe question Batman's or challenge Batman's notions of what a villain is and who's right and who's wrong. And, what better way to do so than through a sexy ass woman? and
she's arguably, yes, it depends on which version, but very often she's stealing for her own personal gain, but she also is kind of a Robin Hood. She helps people around her that are beneath him helping. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? When she's stealing priceless jewel artifacts, she's not getting them from the orphanage. She's stealing them, she's stealing them from other thieves who have stolen them. And sometimes those other thieves are third world dictators, and is it really bad that you stole, Muammar Gaddafi's prized, cat jewel statue? And I've been to a lot of museums, by the way. Don't see a lot of cat-based, priceless artwork that you do in the Batman world.
Well, they're all being hoarded by cat ladies around America, but that's another story. But yeah, so you want to go down the list quickly about the cat women who have been portrayed. Right. So you have Julie Newmar.
Yep.
Lee Merriweather. Briefly, the one instance is the Batman movie where Lee Merriweather portrayed Catwoman.
Fun fact about the movie was shot before the TV show, but was released a year after the TV show ended.
Interesting. Okay, so technically Lee Merriweather was the first Catwoman.
Correct.
Oh, okay. Then you have Eartha Kitt.
And then the movie that was awful. Just
Halle Berry.
Halle Berry. She's more than attractive.
Yes.
Awful movie.
Awful movie. And it's like, it's at that weird time where it was pre-Marvel. It was post the heyday of it was just after the Schumacher films. Batman was kind of in the grave, or he was put on ice for a while. But then they wanted
George Clooney.
Yeah, right. Thank you, Joel Schumacher. Really. Then you had but they still wanted to put out a Batman-esque movie, so they put out this Catwoman in the early 2000s?
And it's one of those things where I'm not sure who had the rights to the Batman thing at the time.
I think it was Warner.
So a standalone Catwoman movie.
Right. They were like they're doing with Joker now,
right.
Except without a script. They had, let's see, we got that Eartha Kitt. She was a sexy black Catwoman. Why don't we put who's the new sexy black? Oh, yeah. Halle Berry? Yeah. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe Halle Berry approached Warner Brothers.
Stop. Help me out here. Who was the actress who wanted the Catwoman role?
Sean Young.
Oh, dude.
Wasn't she cast as... wasn't she?
No, she wasn't cast in it. She wanted to be cast in it. She made her own outfit in her own...
Michelle Pfeiffer. Yeah, right.
Wheel and stuff like that. Yeah, it was... Oh.
She showed up at some award show.
Right.
Or some red carpet event in the Catwoman outfit. Yeah, Sean Young. She was troubled. But but then Michelle Pfeiffer was Catwoman, famously in the Batman Returns.
Yep.
Basically, an excuse to get Michelle Pfeiffer in a sexy leather S&M type bondage outfit.
And I would like to say kudos.
Mission accomplished.
Maybe a little thank you.
Right. Saucer of milk, table for one.
Carpal tunnel syndrome.
All right. Get a little talk about graphic.
Yeah, thank you. You're welcome.
And then Anne Hathaway.
Which she.
What?
I mean, it's one of my favorite moments, and I'm jumping ahead a little
Yeah.
bit. And the movie where she jumps in it's called the helicopter type thing, and Batman's talking to her, and he like turns it back to point to something. He turns back and she's gone. He's like, so that's what it feels like. It's great. She was absolutely great at that. Right. But again, it's always been a fun, smart, and one of the things about Catwoman, always incredibly hot. Yes.
Yeah.
Always crazy smart. Yes. It's always been a real, not just, a pretty lady, but a foe that challenges him physically and mentally.
Yeah.
Which is where the relationships come from, and it's always just been a great character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and then you mentioned the Riddler, and we can't forget, of course, the Eggman.
Vincent Price, excellent. Yeah, that was. I mean, look, hey, they can't all be winners,
And then maybe we should end on if we can stop talking about villains. The final, I think we should not. We'd be remiss if we did not mention Bane.
So, yeah, with Bane, it's one of the more iconic moments. I mean, and what's great is, yes, Joker's been around forever. Catwoman's been around forever. Riddler's been around forever. And very comic book-y characters through the 60s, through the 70s, even through the 80s. Bane was a later character. Bane didn't come about to the 90s. So they're not always just living in, he's not always fighting the Joker.
Yeah.
Superman's always fighting Lex Luthor or it's basically, I can't think of something he's not fighting, Lex Luthor. But
Kryptonite poisoning.
That's, yeah, but when Bane came in, and that was like a game changer. I mean, Bane broke his back,
Bane was like the WWF, sort of infusion into this universe. They needed some big hulking guy that isn't the Hulk, but like a big, abnormally strong person that could be a formidable opponent against this guy who's just been, dominating over all these other criminals. And
in the comics, Bane is, just like in The Dark Knight Returns or Dark Knight Rises, Bane's really fucking smart. He's not just brute force. He's not, like you said, the Hulk or the Thing or one of these other, moving wall type.
I pick things up and put them down.
Right. Yeah. But he's a planner. He's a strategist. And that's, again, somebody with the intellect, maybe not on par, but at least to give Batman a real challenge and stuff like that. And, a very cerebral, but at the all time, a formidable thing. And again, it's like Tom Hardy was just so fucking good in that.
And of course, you can't do a Bane impersonation without covering your mouth and talking like this.
That's pretty. We might be doing a
self-indulgent theater as Bane.
I mean, his whole line in that movie where he's like, "Oh, you think the dark is your ally?"
Yeah.
It's like, I was born in it, where you merely adopted it. I did not see the light of day till I was a grown man. So good. But that iconic comic cover that they got shot for shot right in that, of him holding him over his head and just busting him over, his knee. It's like, yeah, Bane is, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but, another transformative foe is Ra's al Ghul, who they haven't introduced Batman into the Arrowverse, but they've really made the Green Arrow is 75% Batman and 25% Green Arrow from the comics. But his number one foe for like 6 seasons has been Ra's al Ghul in the League of Assassins. You know, they took one of Batman's biggest foe, and again, a foe who was introduced in like the last 25 years. So it's still an ongoing, developing rogues gallery of just awesomeness.
Yep. And then, of course, the Penguin.
The Penguin.
What is this?
You know,
they got down to the peas. Is that what happened?
They're all animal based.
I know, right?
I mean, if you look at it, like, he has, who does he have? He has Killer Croc,
Poison Ivy, Scarecrow.
She's great. Yeah, Scarecrow. I mean, you play Dark Knight or Arkham Knight. Scarecrow's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And how great is Scarecrow? In the first Batman, and he's in all three movies.
Right, exactly. He makes cameos in the other two.
But he's, and again,
it makes it count.
One of my favorite lines in The Dark Knight Returns, when these are guys out there, copycats trying to help Batman, and Batman's like, I don't need your help, and he's all tied up, Crane's tied up, like waiting for the cops to get him. He goes, "That's not what my diagnosis would be." And then and then the guy's like, "Oh, well, what's so special about you? What's the difference between you and me? I'm not wearing hockey pads." But that's
good lines in that movie. Yeah, I gotta go rewatch those movies. Those are great.
I watch them all the time.
In
Come
your
over
brain.
anytime. No, yes, yeah.
Well, let's okay. Maybe if we're gonna, I don't want to take this make this a 2-hour thing.
Yeah.
But like we've talked about the movies, we talked about the TV shows.
Well, I want to talk more about the movies and the TV shows. Let's. Where were you going?
I was going to say like the other the 1989 Batman was the infusion, and I think the natural progression of that into pop culture would have to be Batman the Animated Series.
Yep. Right after, so they had in 89, and there was 92 the second one. There was supposed to be a third one.
Right.
Big. We could do a whole sideshow of what happened to the third one. But there was a movie that came out, an animated movie. It was the first one called The Mask of the Phantasm. It shocked people how good it was. Like, I don't think Warner Brothers said, "Yeah, we're gonna, sink $750,000 into this animated movie, and it's going to completely launch a completely new that so far has lasted like almost 30 years."
It's a cottage industry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of fantastic superhero movies
that are
animated.
dark.
Right.
That aren't for some of these movies aren't for kids. Master of the Phantasm was for kids, but it was bloody. It had a great story. It zagged when you thought it was going to zing. It wasn't straightforward, and it did so well. That's where Warner's like, okay, we have something here, and then thus that's spawned Batman the Animated Series. That did so well. It spawned Superman. They tried to do a spinoff with Superman,
and that was okay too.
It was okay, but here it is 25 years later.
Right.
I can bore you with the highly rated, tens of thousands of download podcasts each and every week or every other week, 100% just dedicated to that series.
Right.
Where all of the writers have gone on to do huge TV things. All the voices have gone on to do other things. They were big at the time, and some of the producers and directors are still some of the biggest producers and directors in this space that have only gotten bigger and bigger and bigger budgets. Harley Quinn came from Batman the Animated Series. People forget, it's like Harley Quinn hasn't been around forever. She's only been around since I think it was
93,
94. And that's the kind of stuff. And some of these new characters, these new rogue galleries, have all blackface. Black mask. Sorry,
blackface is a different thing.
Justin Trudeau. So yeah. I mean, that's some of the things when I talk about how game changing Batman has always been. And again, I'm going back. The first sidekick, the Batmobile. These characters that have spun off their own independent franchises. Batman the Animated Series made them relook at like, hey, we don't have to just make cartoons for Saturday morning or for campiness. And they've done that. They in the last 10 years, they've came out with Batman the Brave and the Bold, which was 100% to sell toys at Target. And I'm dead serious. And they created new characters.
It was toyetic.
Oh,
Batmite.
three names. Neil Patrick Harris. They created a singing character, him, Music Meister. That it can't be. He won an Emmy for that.
Paul Rubens' Batmite.
Oh, please don't. No. I mean, look. We've already mentioned. Trudeau has had some ill moments of ill judgment. I'm putting because it was like, well, Superman has Mxyzptlk. We have to have this Batmite character.
You don't like Batmite?
I no. No. Well, yeah, I shouldn't say that because he made an appearance on Teen Titans Go, and it was great.
Yeah.
It was really.
I think in small doses. I think there's a time and a place for Batman.
Right. There's a time and place for Ace, his dog. You know what I mean? But,
anyways, getting back to animated series.
So that series alone was game changing. It ends up leading into doing Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. Again, they've been off the air for 15 years, and it's still so downloaded. It still sells incredibly. The stories are great, and now they're taking elements from those stories and incorporating them in these $200 million, pictures. They're accessible to tweens and 9-year-olds, but they're not making. But again, they do. They'll make The Brave and the Bold. They'll make these other ones.
But the thing about animated series that was probably so captivating was that the stories were well written. Like you talked about the high production value. They brought in quality actors, quality producers, and then first and foremost, this is based on a comic book. The art style, the Art Deco kind of 30s-esque, 1930s-esque, like harkening back to the origins of Batman, but still kind of taking place in this sort of Neverland of it's like the old 30s and 40s, but it's not. It's modern day.
They're not cutting corners where, as you're driving, it's the same loop in the background. When Fred Flintstone would run, and it's like the same thing in the back. No, they
had 30 frames per second
time and effort into it, and it did. I wanted to go through a couple of them, but it did. So, Batman the Animated Series gives birth to the Justice League and the Justice League Unlimited. In the last 5 or 6 years, as Marvel's done what they've done, amazing. Warner Brothers has gone another route. They started launching a continuum inside these high budget for these movies, these animated movies. Batman is the catalyst for all of them. There are great Justice League ones. There are great all-encompassing ones. There's one that took place in the 40, a flashback thing. There's a great Flash one called Flashpoint. It's kind of brutal. It's really harsh. Flashpoint. Anyways, sticking on Batman. But then there's a line with just Batman, and the stories are all continuing, even though these are Batman stories, and there's 4 in the past 6-7 years. Bad Blood is the best one between Batman. Gets in a fight. It's controlled. Spoiler: it came out a few years ago. That's where it's revealed to him that he was date raped by Talia al Ghul. He has a son. All of these things. Yeah, it's literally dark. But the other things, and then like I said, it's the other things that it spun off. Talking about TV, we already talked about just briefly.
Yeah, the Adventures of Batman and Robin.
Right, but then you got the Arrowverse, which is huge. It's all based on Batman stuff. So many of the characters come from Batman lore, and are derivative, from Batman. But most recently, the 5-season-long Gotham, which I really liked. And again, what I like, Bruce Wayne's parents were shot. He has this great relationship with Alfred. This is how. And granted, they've taken a lot of liberties, and it's an Elseworld, type of thing. But even there, his relationship with, Catwoman is great, and Jim Gordon is great. But it again shows, where a lot of his training came from. Birds of Prey, which was a one season, show. I want to say 15 years ago, which didn't do well. It was okay. They're relaunching that because of the strength of the Arrowverse.
You're right. They're making a movie with, Harley Quinn.
Yep.
They have Margot Robbie,
and so you got just like I said. Even now, yes, you had Smallville, which did well. You had the Adventures of Lois and Clark, which did really well. You have Supergirl that's part of the Arrowverse and stuff like that. But you do. You had Gotham that just ended its run. Gotham did so well, it just spun off Pennyworth. So now it's going to Alfred's backstory, before he met the Waynes. And it's pretty brutal. It's great. I really like it. And just before Adam West passed away, we brought back a couple animated things, the Batman 66.
Yep.
Which is good. So let's see if I was forgetting something. The DC movies. Yeah, they've had, they've never regained what they had with Batman in the animated series, but they had Brave and the Bold. They had The Batman. They had Batman Beyond. They had Batman 66. But there was one other one. I think it was called The Batman. Anyways.
Yeah, The Batman. Yeah.
Before we go to the movies and my favorite Batman, the video games, which you've touched on. The Arkham games, some people say there's only 3 because there was a 4th one, which was a prequel that wasn't done by
Rockstar.
Was it Rockstar?
Rocksteady.
Rocksteady, that's what I thought. But had the same voice actors, and they basically had the backstories to what you saw in the other games, and it came out between game 2 and 3 in that series.
Arkham Origins.
Those 4 games I thought were great. I remember the first PS2 game that I saw was based on Batman Begins. I don't know. Do you have that one?
I don't.
I've never. No, I did. I played it for a short time. Somebody.
Probably not. I don't think it's that good.
It was okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was great because I'd never seen a game like that.
I think, if I remember correctly, I mean, you weren't a huge gamer,
Not until I saw Arkham Asylum.
Right. When you saw Arkham Asylum, you're like, what is this? Because A, you love Batman. B, this was the PlayStation 3. The graphics capabilities had caught up to the imaginations of the creators of these franchises and these IPs. And you're looking at this like, this is kind of like a movie, and I get to play Batman. And it cost me just how much?
It really fucked up my life, and I don't. This is when I first tried heroin. Like, I hadn't played games since 18 years earlier when I went through my little Cubert phase,
right?
Which was your fault. Take responsibility for my shortcomings, Joe. But I did. I've told this story before. I went to our friend Chris's, the senior.
No, he's our Resident Evil expert,
and I went to his house to, it was a work related thing. He had a big screen TV. He was playing the game. I never had one of those controls in my hand. Like, I felt like I was, launching the space shuttle. And I played it for about a second. Like, yeah, I'm not doing this. But I watched him play, and I'm like, how isn't this a movie? Like, the story blew me away so much. And then I had to buy a PS3 for work. They gave me a copy of it. I'm like, fine, I'll play it. And I've lost the last 11 years of my life.
Didn't help that Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill and all the other people who did work on the Batman animated series also
reprised their roles.
Sarkin,
Arlene Sarkin, was Harley Quinn and stuff like that. And it was so great. And like you said, it's like, this is the first time you could play a game and actually be Batman. You are under the cowl. You are looking at everything from his point of view. And I've told this story. I remember I didn't know there was this world of YouTube videos that show you walk through. I wasn't aware that world had existed at the time. And I remember being stuck and calling Chris and saying, hey, I'm in this room. How the fuck do I get out? And I had been stuck in it for like a few hours. And his advice to me was like, okay, stop playing the game as you. And what would Batman do? Like, just literally stop. You're a Batman expert. What would Batman do? And I thought about it for a second. I'm like, okay. And I called him about, he called me about like an hour later. I'm like, because you got around. I'm like, yeah, I got around like 59 minutes ago. I took that advice and I looked at the game differently. And that's when I'm like, I can fucking be Batman. You
haven't gotten PS4, the PSVR, by the way, yet. And there's a Batman VR, which is probably not the greatest Batman experience, I guess, but it's still a unique Batman type experience that you need to experience.
So I mean, let's talk about the Batman thing for just a second. So there was all those Nintendo games that like you have, and either you sent me the link. There's some girl that you follow who plays retro games, and I watched her beat a Batman game recently, and that was great.
But
the Injustice games are
it's Mortal Kombat with DC characters,
and the whole story revolves basically around Batman and Superman. It's one of those their frenemy stories.
But the other thing,
the Lego Batman franchise is epic.
Yeah, that is again. We're forgetting that, Batman is dark, and Batman's brooding, Batman's serious, and Batman's this, and Batman's that. But Batman can also be geared towards kids and get them interested into this world in maybe a kinder, gentler way than maybe seeing somebody getting date raped or whatever the hell you're talking about. Maybe take a lighter approach, not a kind of a campy approach, but this is more of like a fun approach. The idea when Lego first did their video game, when Lego first did their video games based on Star Wars
movie adaptation,
movie adaptations, it was done with Star Wars, and it was just like, oh my god, this is so fun because you're actually kind of playing with toys in this like video landscape. And and they're doing it in a fun and kind of nice way, but with winks and nods to the hardcore fans. And now they're doing it with Batman, because Batman, like you said, has a wide rogues gallery. And as the games progress, because they've done 3 of them, as the games progressed, they've really dug deep into the I think they've actually carved out the bottom of the barrel to get to the amount of enemies and characters that you can play as or against. And then my favorite, of course, is actually Batman 2, Lego Batman 2. What was it? The DC superheroes or something like that? Right. And you get to play as Superman and other characters.
And they use the iconic music associated with the different characters. And every time Superman goes to take off,
they play the John Williams theme. Yeah, that's great. But then, of course, then you get to the third one, which is beyond silly. You're not only rescuing these ancillary characters. You're rescuing Stan Lee. You're rescuing Adam West. Conan O'Brien, for some reason, is involved. Kevin Smith, I think, has as a character. So it gets really, really silly. And that's kind of where I checked out. And I think that's where Lego checked out at that point.
But yes and no. I mean, they stopped making those games, but that spawned the Batman movie. And those games in the Batman movie,
the Lego Batman
movie, it's very akin to the Batman 66, where the first time I take, or when we were playing the game, and my 5-6-year-old is playing the Lego Batman game, he's playing a completely different game than I am because of the innuendos and the other jokes and the stuff like that.
And by the way, how great of casting is it to have Will Arnett as the voice of Batman?
We'll get into that.
Right. Well, that's the thing is that we had the Christian Bale. I guess are we ranking Batman now?
I'm going to rank my Batman in a bit, but yeah, Will Arnett was. When we talk about the podcast, your reaction to the number 9, my catching burps. It's like now
things that we can't help do in real life.
First try. I say first try.
I said first try the other day playing a video game. It was like this hard little task that other people had difficulty doing online, and I did it immediately and just out loud. I just said first try.
Yeah, I also say that when I'm playing a new video game. And I try something 614 times. When I finally get it, first try, because that's when he was throwing the batarang so many times.
Yeah.
So that has weaseled its way into almost, I don't want to say daily reference, but somebody in my family, management or one of the boys will say first try. Almost one of the 4 of us say it every day.
Yeah. Yeah. So Batman is beloved. He's been reborn many, many times and reimagined many, many times by many, many actors, reinterpreted many, many times. Now, Jacques, you are now tasked, the Herculean task from worst Batman to best Batman. Oh. I'm going to challenge you to rate your Batman from worst to first.
I think it's probably what you might think it is, or what it should be. Val Kilmer,
worst Batman.
Yeah. Joel Schumacher, maybe the worst director for a movie, but George Clooney was fine. George Clooney was fine.
He fit the suit like Johnny Bravo.
Thank you. So Val Kilmer was worse. And I hate, because I love George Clooney and almost everything he's done as an actor or director. I love George Clooney. I love Batman. Hated George Clooney as Batman. Right. Now, like with Teen Titans Go, I didn't like it. And I hated that my kids liked it. And then until it dawned on me, my kids like it. This is their gateway drug. This is me starting them off with a beer, helping them become full-fledged alcoholics. This is me letting them have pot so they can get to the black tar heroin. And it has. Like, they still like Teen Titans Go, but they have segued into the, more mature, the harder stuff. Same thing. Batman and Robin, they love. You know what I mean? They love it, and through the eyes of watching it with, I think he was like 3.5, maybe 4 at the time, my youngest one who lived in a Batman suit or a Robin suit, and how much he liked it. It's like, all right, get over it. You know what I mean?
But that's fine, because you can. It's okay for a little kid to enjoy Batman and Robin, because he will have time to have grown out of that,
right,
when he matures.
But if this was what got him in, and Batman and Robin got him into it, All
right, so it served a purpose.
So it's this served. And look, so that's the movie. But just sticking on the Batman.
Yeah. So now we're going up the ladder.
Yeah.
Well, the Bat ladder.
And it's like Bruce Greenwood, who was the Batman voice in Under the Red Hood. Because it's one of my favorite movies, period. And it was a great job. Like, I don't think he's played Batman in other
iterations,
things, but he did that. And same thing. And then Jason O'Mara, he's done a couple of these continuum movies over the past 5 or 6 years. Then we get to Will Arnett.
First try.
He is great. Like that voice.
And it's kind of his voice.
It's right.
Now, what about, do you think the casting of Will Arnett as Batman had anything to do with Christian Bale's choice of voice for his interpretation of Batman?
Probably. But and one of my favorite things was at the Academy Awards when the song,
the which song?
So in the Lego movie.
Oh, Everything is Awesome?
No. And the Lego movie, Everything was Awesome was up. But in that movie, Batman had really, wrote his own songs. And Wildfire was like, when they were playing in the Batjet, he's like, this is real music. And it's basically his life story. It's great. It's a great, fun song. It's this metal song.
Yeah, it's just him on a guitar singing into a microphone.
And just screaming rock metal and death metal. And it's awesome. And at the Academy Awards, he came out as Batman singing that. And I'm like,
everything is dark. I forget the words. I don't think there was much of a meter to the song.
You know what? Maybe we'll go out on that one.
Okay.
But definitely Will Arnett.
I'm surprised at the next choice here. You have other people above this particular person. Now, are these ranked?
They are ranked. Surprise! I thought about it. Yeah.
Explain yourself. What's this next one? Well, right above Will Arnett.
I probably would switch. Should switch, and I'll go Michael Keaton.
Okay.
I didn't love Michael Keaton, and even when the movie came out, I loved. So I'm 20. On a date. It's right after my 20th birthday. I was excited about the movie. I loved the movie. I did. I thought Keaton was okay. I thought Mr. Mom was okay.
He got a lot of crap, in the press, or in the Batman fandom, I guess. Pre-online, he was not met original when he was announced as Batman. They were like, really?
But my question to you is, since then, has there ever been an announcement for Batman that people have said, great? Everybody, Batfleck and stuff like that.
Will Arnett.
Yeah, maybe. but
as far as live action goes,
but Pattinson, what's the guy's name? Who's going to be the guy from Twilight?
Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, people are panning. It's like, dude, Anyway, so I'll stay and check. There was some things about the movie I didn't like, and Keaton's personality, like when he was Batman, it was just, and it's nitpicky little shit I'm not even going to bring up because I've gotten over it, but
Batman,
I didn't love him.
Bruce Wayne.
As Bruce Wayne, I didn't love on some regards, and as Batman, but again, the bat suit, he couldn't turn. It wasn't very Batman-esque. I mean, when you look at like the athleticism of Michael Keaton as Batman and who's the kid who plays Spider-Man now? Tom.
Tom. Oh,
Oh,
how quickly I forget.
My little one's going to kill me because he lives for the guy.
What is it? What is it?
But he's a gymnast. He's a professional dancer, gymnast. Tom. You can say it.
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland. I mean, he literally showed up for the audition and was doing like backflips and stuff like that. Like, yeah, we have stunt doubles for that.
Yeah.
You know, don't hurt yourself. We need you to look good and all this stuff. But it's like the athleticism and the choreography of fight scenes have changed, like, you know, a great deal.
Yeah, but that's like saying, like, you know, Babe Ruth probably wouldn't hold up to the standards of Derek Jeter.
Well, yeah, because Babe Ruth never faced black pitchers, you know, and or
Right.
Dominican pitchers or pitchers other than, you know.
Yeah, right. Other fat white guys.
Thank you. But yeah, so Keith was fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
he rebirthed. I mean, we don't have Bale unless we have that.
Right, and he worked with Burton before, and he was great in Beetlejuice, and yes.
It was great. And then you're right. Like, you know.
What's next?
80-year-old Kevin Conroy. He looks great for 80.
So Kevin Conroy from the animated series and the video game.
Yeah, and he's done so much. You know, other than the series, he's done a couple of like voice, Mask of the Phantasm, which started it all off and stuff like that.
So yeah, I'm surprised that Kevin Conroy's like there are still a few more left to go.
I love those Arkham games. The 3 Rockstar games.
Right.
You know, that Batman and that voice. So you got to think about like this. How many times have I seen any Batman movie? Realistically, Batman Begins. How many times have I seen Batman Begins or The Dark Knight?
I can't count that high.
Let's honestly say, from beginning to end, I've seen The Dark Knight 25 times.
Okay.
25 times, 2.5 hours. We're talking 60,
70 hours.
60, 70 hours. This is sad to say out loud. How many hours have I been Batman in those 4 games?
All right. Oh, God. Yeah. Hundreds.
Right. So I mean, and who was I when I was playing those games?
Yeah.
So I'm more connected to that. When you say hundreds of hours, that's
right.
sadly
But
not an exaggeration.
This is what's killing me is that Conroy is low on this list, in my opinion. Now, you have more to go. Now, so who's above Conroy on this ranked list? Because you still have, 1, 2, 3, 4 more to go.
Right. But I mean, when the fact that Roger Craig Smith, the voice from the Arkham games, is my 4th favorite. Again, I'm more connected to him.
So Roger Craig. This is where I'm confused. I didn't
go from worst to first.
I didn't realize that. Here, pardon me. I'm going to plead ignorance here.
Okay.
I thought Kevin Conroy. I forgot that Kevin Conroy did not voice the Arkham games.
Oh, okay. There you go.
I forgot.
Right.
That I thought he was in the Arkham games.
So he's number 5.
Roger Craig Smith is the actor.
He's
who does
number
the
4.
Arkham games. Thank you, nice person. Now get back with the bat and the man.
I really loved. I really loved Ben Affleck's character. I really loved, and it's sadly. Well, there's 2.5 movies with him. Like maybe like 2 and a 5th because he's just in 10 minutes of Suicide Squad. But the 10 minutes he's in are the best. I mean, the scenes that he's in are my favorite scenes from the movie. But without a doubt, I will never get over the fact that we didn't get a second standalone Ben Affleck movie or another Justice League movie with Ben Affleck. I'm pissed about that. Of all the relationships in movies between Batman and Alfred, that was my favorite. Like, and I've talked about this before. There's a tiny scene where Alfred comes into the house and Bruce Wayne turns to him and hands him a cup of, he had 2 cups of coffee and he had made coffee and he hands it to Alfred. Talk about it. It's so underplayed, but that signifies 100%. Like, yeah, Alfred is there to help him. Alfred is still his butler, his caretaker, his doctor, his medic, his confidant, but at the same time, they're peers. You know what I mean? It's like, it wasn't, employee boss. It wasn't this, that they were absolutely on the same level. And with that tiny little moment gesture, that signified where their relationship was. And I really liked it. I loved those movies a lot. I really did. and I know you don't love Batman versus Superman. I think I love it for different reasons. The adaptation of the comics that I love from that darker time.
Yep.
But Ben Affleck, and then Adam West, who it's goofy, it's campy, and part of me is like, Conroy should be ahead of Adam West. Smith should be ahead of Adam West. But truly, I mean, Adam West was it up for me. Really up until, and I'll be honest, when Batman the Animated Series came out, I didn't see it. I didn't have TV. Like, I was in college at the time. I had the comic books. Whatever money I had that didn't go to, like, band shit or beer, which you put in the band shit category, was spent on comics. That's all I spent money on, was like beer, comics, band stuff. Didn't have TV. So I didn't see the animated series until several years, after that. So Adam West was my de facto Batman, truly, up until Christian Bale, really.
Okay. And that leads us to our number one.
Number one is Christian Bale. I mean, those three movies completely changed everything. It changed. I really don't believe you, and I'm not taking anything away from the MCU, but I don't think you have the MCU, especially without the first Batman. And again, that came out the same time Superman did. And I don't want to say expectations were low, but people were blown the fuck away. And, Christian Bale was a more physically imposing actor.
And a much better, probably the best actor to date.
I mean, I didn't realize too recently, how many movies he's directed, how many movies I've liked that he's directed, and how smart he is.
And how long he's been acting. Like, he was a child actor.
Child actor, yeah. Yeah, like, I think he was in Newsies.
Yeah.
And you look at, like, that first movie, he did a couple movies leading up to that, a great movie that, Under the Radar. It came out in between the first and second, or maybe the second and third Matrix, called, I think, Equilibrium.
Okay.
He's a badass. He's a futuristic cop and stuff like that. He's physically imposing, I think he was a great Bruce Wayne. Again, I loved the story. Like, parents get shot, and this is how he got from point A to point B. You know what I mean? He didn't go to karate school, and he didn't do this. And he was a flawed character. He was a flawed character from day one. He went to shoot the guy who shot his parents. Like, and I did. But the other three movies, the growth of him, his relationship, with why am I blanking on the name?
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton.
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine. I think Michael Caine was, just really a great thing.
Some people just want to watch the world burn.
Those movies were dark. They're DC movies that tend to be more dark, but they have these great moments of levity in it.
Some
stuff
people
like
just
that.
Like doing the Michael Caine voice.
If you don't be careful, guess who's doing a
self-indulgent theater?
You're going to do a self-indulgent theater, maybe a point counterpoint remake of an SNL January Would Slut You between Bane and Michael Keaton next week. So get ready for that.
Michael Caine versus Bane. We got Caine versus Bane.
You going to do a Bane now?
Caine versus Bane. I don't know.
That was great.
Whatever. So anyways.
So he is my favorite.
And then I have to say one thing about the voice choice.
Okay.
Upon first hearing this, what I thought to be a silly voice for Batman, the gravelly kind of like, I can't believe I'm talking like this as a character in the movie the whole time. At first, I'm like, what the fuck is Christian Bale doing as Batman? And then as the years went on and the movies went on, I kind of came to the realization that, okay, at least the Christian Bale version of Batman, at least that Christian Bale version of Bruce Wayne is trying to disguise his voice.
Right.
Because every other Batman was like, hi, I'm Bruce Wayne. Hi, I'm Batman. Yep. Hello, you birds. This is John Lennon talking to you.
and as Batman, it's like, again, in the first one, he plays the drunk philanthropist, walks into the restaurant, with, two ladies, is drunk, makes a fool of himself, is a bad boy. I mean, it's the billionaire playboy, facade was just fantastic. I loved everything about those movies.
Right. So I guess if I can now justify him using in my mind him justifying that voice and accepting the voice, which led to the Will Arnett casting. In my opinion, without Christian Bale, there's no Will Arnett as Batman.
And what I liked in Batman vs Superman, they showed Alfred working on the voice box thing, that he wasn't doing the voice, that he had a modulator to make his voice sound like that. So he wasn't consciously doing that, but yeah, he was disguising his voice for a reason.
And one more thing, I want to make sure we cover all the bases as far as Batman goes. You have your Paul, you have your Batman, you have your Joker, you have your Alfred, but you also have your Lucius Fox.
Yeah.
You got to talk about Lucius Fox. I mean, he's, well, maybe you don't have to.
No, you do, because again, is
he more of a newer invention?
Newer by 30 years.
Okay.
Which, Morgan Freeman was just, and that's my favorite Morgan Freeman line ever will be, and my favorite thing ever.
Please do the scene.
So
self-indulgent theater.
A CPA who's working on a Wayne Enterprises project figures out that there's been money siphoned off, for R&D, and he pulls the old files and he realizes that, Bruce Wayne is Batman and that Lucius Fox is behind it, and all these Wayne gadgets and stuff, this is money, that they've been really meticulous about moving around. This CPA figured it out. And he goes to Lucius Fox and he shows him the blueprints of the Tumbler, the Batmobile from the first movie, and says, what else are you building for him? A rocket ship? I want $10 million every year for the rest of my life. And Morgan Freeman doesn't get flustered, doesn't raise an eyebrow, complete poker face, says, let me get this straight. You think your boss, one of the richest, most powerful men in the world, spends his nights beating criminals to a bloody pulp with his bare hands. And this is the man you want to try to extort? Good luck.
Well done.
I mean, and then the guy just realizes, it's like, okay, Bruce Wayne can have me and my entire family disappeared because he owns billions of dollars and is a rich industrialist, and he does, takes on armies of thugs with his bare hands and beats them to a bloody pulp. And it's like, I'll just take this and go away now.
Yeah, I'm definitely watching The Dark Knight again.
But he does, in the comics, and again, in the video games, Lucius is a big figure. In the movies and in the continuum of movies in the DC Empire, he's a big, part of it. He's also a big part of, they've made him a big part of the Gotham series, So he, and again, when I talk about like the spinoff, Oracle, like Batgirl has become Oracle, and spinoff from that, the Teen Titans or the Titans are, they have their own, they've had two very wildly successful TV series. Two wildly successful TV series. Now, the Titans, led by Dick Grayson, are wildly successful on the in the DCU universe with a live action. It's the first one. Again, that has spun off from the Batman thing. I mean, yes, Nightwing and Dick Grayson are still part of the continuum in some families, but just a standalone thing. What the Titans have done, and if you think about that, whether it's whether it's somebody from anybody from the X-Men gone off, maybe Wolverine and done something. But you look at what Barbara Gordon has done, and the Birds of Prey, which is led by Barbara Gordon, the Suicide Squad, which is a thing of its own, the Titan, which are a thing of their own, the different Robins and stuff like that. Catwoman, a standalone movie. Harley Quinn just had a standalone movie. The Joker has a standalone movie. All these characters that have come from this tree that are industries unto themselves and stuff like that for them. So I think that now brings us to my favorite movies. I'm going to go in order. I'm going to go first to Or should I go last to
I
first?
think worst to first is a good way to
See,
go.
I can't go worst to first because I didn't put some movies on here. You know what I mean? These are just the ones that make the
Well,
list.
I mean, okay, these are your top 10. How many went? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
12.
9, 12. Okay, so your top
Baker's
12,
dozen, yeah.
top 12 Batman movies. Number 12.
Actually 13 because I have a Baker's dozen. Batman 89 and Batman 92. The two Michael
Batman
Keaton ones.
Returns.
And Batman Returns. The two of them back to back.
Okay,
And yes, the Lego Batman movie makes the list.
of course.
It was so great. I might switch it with Suicide Squad, and I don't even know if you count that a Batman movie. Again, you don't have the Suicide Squad without Batman. You don't have Amanda Waller, who's, when you think of the Rogues Gallery and villains, do you see Suicide Squad? Do you know her backstory?
No.
She's a villain.
Okay.
She's works for a government organization, but she is just as fucking evil as any of the she will literally. Spoiler alert. So she, and the Suicide Squad, she has a whole team on ops. They're watching this whole operation. It goes south. She's surrounded. They send the Suicide Squad to get her out, and they make sure all the techs. There's like 4 or 5 techs sitting there. Make sure these drives are white. Make sure this is that. Get rid of. They did it. It's like, is everything done? You're sure? All the backups are gone. You're sure? 100%. Yeah. And she's with Deadshot, who came in to get her out. And she's like, great. She pulls out a gun and kills her 4 people. She's like, they didn't have the clearance to see what they've just seen. And Deadshot looks at her and goes, and I'm the bad guy. And it's like she's, and Justice League Unlimited. She is fucking evil. However, she took some of Batman's DNA and cloned him, and unbeknownst to him, like Batman Beyond, like the guy who takes over the Batman mantle, raised by other people. Amanda Waller planned to have his parents killed in front of him, hoping it would spark the same thing, and then was questioned about it. He finds out that the kid Terry from Batman Beyond. And she's like, why? Why? And she explains, he was a nemesis. We were enemies. But I realized the world will always need a Batman. Like, she was like, I was hoping, you get his physical attributes, you would get this, but his brain. Like, the world needs somebody who thinks like him. And that's why. So Suicide Squad, so Lego so
Let's not dwell on these too long, though.
Yeah, okay. And then I put them all as one because it's a continuum. Doom, War, Batman, Bad Blood. That's part of those things because it's meant to be. It's one story broken up into different things. Infinity War and Endgame is one long movie to me. Batman 66.
Right.
It's not.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Dude, that movie predates me by 4 years, 3 years, and it's dated, it's campy, it's all that. It's still hilarious. It still holds up. Hand me the shark repellent.
The bat shark repellent.
What's the opposite of insisting upon itself? It insists that you understand it knows how campy and awful it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then the Justice League that came out like 2 years ago, absolutely love it. Hopefully I go to Saudi Arabia with Justin Malone. I mean, that's the whole plan. Under the Red Hood. It's an animated movie. It's in my top 5 on this. It's in my top 25 of movies overall. It's brutal. It's harsh. If a cartoon movie has almost 100% on Rotten Tomatoes after being out for 15 years, it tells you it's really fucking good. You've not seen it in its entirety, but Batman vs. Superman, which is great because there's a line in Batman vs. Superman where Batman, when they first face off against each other, let me ask you something. Do you bleed? Superman flies off. You will, And then later, when he's resurrected in the Justice League and he's fighting Batman, they brought him back to life, and he's like, Superman asks Batman, he's like, 20 feet off the ground. Do you bleed? So it is great. Dark Knight Rises. I'm looking forward to next week's podcast to hear Tom Hardy's Bane and Michael Caine's Alfred duel it out. I don't know what yet, but it will be awesome and epic. It's a great movie. Batman Begins. truly, you don't have the other ones. You literally don't have the other ones. You don't have the other ones unless it did so phenomenally well. And then that's when they put more money into the next one. And my favorite movie is The Dark Knight. It's the first time that I can remember not a technical award, not a music award, that an actor in a live action superhero movie won an Academy Award.
Posthumously.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, he passed away, but I think that had a little bit of an effect on the award for it and the gravity of his performance and the appreciation of his performance, you know?
So fucking good.
But, man, did he reinvent it. Like,
Dude, he was 27. Did he seem 27 in that?
No.
Yeah, it's only 27 in that movie.
I mean, you looked at Heath Ledger's performance of the Joker, and you look back at Nicholson. You look at, because of Heath Ledger, he made Nicholson look like Cesar Romero.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. And Nicholson, wasn't coming at it from a comic.
No, and Nicholson was like the gold standard because there were only two.
Right,
you know, it's like him and Cesar Romero. Do you know what I mean? Like, as far as live action goes. So everybody loves the villain in a movie, especially a very good villain. But yeah, Heath Ledger, he took it to like not super ugly dark, but like just this side of evil. You know, like somebody who actually could be realistic in the world. Like, he wasn't cartoony.
What makes a good villain? It is very often, and it doesn't 100% apply to him, but I'm going to bring it around. What makes a great villain is a villain who doesn't see himself as a villain.
But
sees himself as Is Magneto a bad guy?
Yep.
Is Magneto a villain?
I mean,
is he?
It depends on who you're asking.
Well, that's mutants are being prosecuted like the Jews were. He was persecuted. He was a Jew in a concentration camp. Here it is, 40 years later. He's seeing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So is because he's making sure it doesn't happen to his people again. In this case, his people are now mutants, not just the Jews. It's not going to happen again. Fuck you. And you go through the list of the villains. Lex Luthor truly sees himself, and this has, changed a little bit. They've kind of made this his character over like the last 30 years. You've become too dependent on Superman to solve your fucking problems. He's enabling your laziness. He's enabling, why are we putting our trust in him being our defender? He could turn on us tomorrow. Get your shit together and be prepared to fight whoever the bad guy is and fight him, because he could switch teams tomorrow. He's holding back the development of the human race, is how Lex Luthor sees. He literally sees himself as the good guy,
Who's liberating the human race from the tyranny of Superman.
Right. Sure, he's a good guy now. He could change tomorrow. And with the Joker, it's like, I love when he's talking to the gangster. He's like, this town deserves a better class of criminal. like you don't deserve to get the shit kicked out of you by Batman. You're not good enough to have this. And literally he understands. It's like, yeah, we have to up the game. You know what I mean? Like, Batman is great, and he deserves a nemesis, and you assholes aren't giving it to him, type thing.
He burns all that money.
As a good guy, right? He's like, fuck you. Literally, I don't want my, I need a little money to buy a few bombs, a few, like dynamite,
a sewing machine, some thread, some fabric.
Well, cheap suit. It isn't cheap. You should know. You bought it. it's one of the great lines when he's like, "You want to see a magic trick?"
Ta-da!
It's gone. So the dark, and honestly, when you think of the villains, the Joker is my all-time favorite villain. I give anything for Batman to finally fucking kill him. But you're right, Mark Hamill.
I mean, he kind of did.
He kind of.
Come on, man.
No, wait
a second.
And it's the same thing. Batman didn't let go of, Michael Keaton didn't make the Joker fall.
Right.
Same thing. Like,
I know.
He, Christian Bale tried to save Heath Ledger. Batman tried to save him. He chose, because he knew they're going to blame you. You killed me. Everybody is going to see you holding on to me and you letting go. They're going to see that You dropped me off this
And that's
building.
one thing we didn't touch on in this entire podcast, that we know that Batman is a unique character. He's a detective. He's this and that, a billionaire. He's also a vigilante.
Yeah.
Like, he does not work with the police
No.
unless he does.
Right.
See, that's the thing, is that he starts off as a vigilante. Like, right? This is vigilante justice. Like,
Yep.
he's out for justice. And he plays by his own rules, but he's, his heart's in the right place. But Batman isn't entirely a good guy.
No. I mean, and Batman, and no, again, it's in the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
When he's shaking down the mob boss. And he's holding him, over, off the second story balcony. And the guy's like, one professional to the other. A fall from this high isn't going to kill me. He's trying to tell him how he's not intimidated. And Batman's like, I'm counting on it. And he drops him. And you hear the crack of his legs. You hear his legs shatter. It just shatters. It's like, I'm counting on it. It's like, yeah, that's not the, no. It's like, yeah, you can intimidate somebody in the interrogation room, but he is truly going to get the answers he wants.
And I think maybe that is the real appeal of Batman, is that he's not Jesus Christ. He's not a Boy Scout. He is very flawed. He's very complicated. He wants to be the good guy. He wants to do everything by his book, but for the betterment of society, and also bit of revenge.
Right.
Like, that's the thing, is that I don't know if you could be completely holistically righteous as a hero, or be defined as a hero, if your motivation is tinged by revenge. Would you say that? Would you agree?
I would 100% agree. And again, that's where the great relationship between Batman and Superman comes from. And there are times in the comics and even in the movies where Superman realizes, yeah, I don't agree with this techniques, but it's like,
Can't argue with results.
you can't argue. No, it's like, when you deal with certain people, it's like, yeah, you at the end of The Dark Knight, where Two-Face, Harvey Dent, who was the Shining Knight, who Batman's going to retire because, the city has somebody who can lead him without a mask on and bring the bright. What's that?
We didn't even mention Harvey Dent in our rogues gallery.
Yes, or Hush, it was just great one. But yeah, with him, and again, what a great performance that was. But he is blaming the world for what happened to Rachel. And he's going to shoot James Gordon's kid in front of him, just so James Gordon knows what it's like to lose the person you love most, die, and Batman stops him and stuff like that. And Harvey Dent dies in their confrontation, but Batman did not kill him. It's the same thing.
How convenient.
He tried. It's true, but but that was his whole thing. And James Gordon's son sees this. But he realizes if people know what Harvey became, everything that they accomplished would go away. And people would stop believing that there's hope. And people would stop believing that the good guys have a chance of winning in a shithole like Gotham. And so Batman's going to be the villain. He's going to take the rap. That James Gordon is going to hold him responsible, even though he was right there. He knows he's not only is he not responsible for his death, he just saved his son. And when his son's like, when Batman goes running off, he goes, but he didn't do anything. And the great line of like, he's the hero that Gotham deserves, but not the one it needs right now. So we will hunt him because he can take it, because he's not our hero. He's a silent guardian. He's a watchful protector, a dark knight. He's James Gordon saying he's not a hero, flat out.
Well, he was the opposite of the White Knight of Harvey Dent.
Right. So it is. It's like that is, and again, now I'm pretty much going to go right home from this, and watch it.
Let's watch it together.
The opening shot, and it's that long, slow pan in. And I heard the director, and it reminded me of when John Williams played the theme for Jaws.
Christopher Nolan.
No, in Jaws.
Oh, okay.
and it's just the oboe,
Yeah.
you know, the dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
And John Williams, or who directed? Why am I blanking on? Steven Spielberg. He's friends with John Williams.
Yep.
He thought he was fucking with him. He literally thought, "You're kidding, right?"
I paid you to score my awesome movie, and this is what you have one instrument.
And he literally thought, like, they were joking around. He's like, all right, play me the real thing. He's like, no, that's it. So it's the same thing. There's this long pan into one window in a building, and it's this stained note, just that goes across, and then the window gets blown out. These guys in clown masks, they grapple from, zip line from one building to the next. And then it's great as they start killing each other off. You know what I mean? And it's so great where the last guy figures it out and he has the gun on one of the other gang guys with the clown mask on. He goes, oh, the boss, probably told you to kill me. It's like, no, I killed the bus driver. The bus driver? What bus driver? The bus backs in and kills the guy. You know what I mean? But the guy on the ground, when he's like, yelling at him, it's like, this guy used to have a better class of criminals. The guy who hired you will do the same thing to you. And that's when he takes off the clown mask and he has the mask, the makeup on. He goes, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stranger. And it's like from that opening moment, it's like, oh, he's fucked.
Sets the tone.
Literally just planned this perfect bank robbery of a mob bank and has his own men kill each other off one by one, and then just the most brilliant thing, the school bus that just pulls out of the bank and it's time, so it just gets in line with the other 50 buses bringing Gotham kids home that day. It's like the perfect, getaway, and that just set the whole tone. But like I said, I mean, it's not my favorite Batman movie. It's my favorite movie.
Wow.
There you go.
All right. Well, that was exhausting, but entertaining.
More than 80 years. Did it take me 80 years to explain 80 years of Batman?
That was last year. This is the 81st anniversary of Batman now. So, well, thank you, Jacques, for bat-splaining. Not since bat-splaining have we had such a schooling on Carnival personnel in the world of Batman. We are all now a little bit smarter since hearing.
We're all dumber for having heard that. And may God have mercy on your soul.
Yep. So, well, thank you for listening to this hour and a half long. It's about an hour and a half long. Of course, it's freaking Batman. It's 80th anniversary. I'm not making this a two-parter because I don't want to. But thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it as much as Jacques enjoyed talking about Batman. No, there's no way. Impossible. And that's it. We'll catch you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. And don't forget...